Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that owning gold, the thing you trusted to protect your future, is now illegal. Not restricted. Not taxed. Illegal. And if you don't give it up, you're breaking the law. This isn't a theory. It already happened. In 1933, the United States government issued Executive Order 6102, requiring citizens to turn in their gold. No public vote. No long debate. Just a deadline. And most people complied. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. What happened next didn't just affect gold. It changed what money itself meant. To understand why this happened, you have to go back to the Great Depression. Banks were failing across the country. People were lining up outside, trying to withdraw whatever they had left. Some got their money out. Most didn't. Savings disappeared overnight. Trust in the financial system collapsed. And when that happens, people don't wait. They look for something they can hold. Something real. Gold became that thing. People started pulling their money out of banks and turning it into gold coins, gold certificates, anything that felt safer than paper. From the government's perspective, this created a dangerous problem. Because at that time, the dollar was directly tied to gold, which meant every dollar in circulation depended on how much gold the country actually held. And as more people converted their money into gold, the system itself started to tighten. Less money in banks. Less lending. More pressure on an already collapsing economy. So the government made a decision. Not a small adjustment. A complete shift. In April 1933, citizens were ordered to turn in their gold to the Federal Reserve at a fixed price of $20.67 per ounce. Most people complied. Not because they wanted to, but because the alternative felt too risky. And for a moment, it looked like the system had stabilized. But then, after the gold was collected, the government changed the price. Not by a little, by a lot. Gold was revalued from $20.67 to $35 per ounce. Overnight, the dollar was devalued, and the gold people had been forced to sell was suddenly worth about 70% more. The system didn't just stabilize. It reset. Wealth didn't disappear. It moved from the public to the system. And most people never noticed it happening in real time. Because on the surface, nothing looked dramatic. No chaos. No collapse. Just a policy change that quietly redefined what money was worth. And that kind of change doesn't feel dangerous in the moment. Because nothing physical disappears. You still have money. You still have access. But what that money represents is no longer the same. And that's where most people misunderstand risk. They think loss has to be visible. Something taken. Something removed. Something obvious. But history shows something different. The biggest shifts often happen quietly. Inside the system itself. In how value is measured. In how currency is defined. In how purchasing power changes over time. And once those foundations move, everything built on top of them moves too. Wages. Savings. Prices. Opportunities. Not all at once, but gradually enough that most people adjust instead of question it. And this is where most people get caught. Because gradual change never feels urgent. And when it doesn't feel urgent, people don't react early. They adapt late. And by the time they do, the system has already reset around them. That's the part history doesn't always make obvious. Major shifts don't always come from markets crashing. Sometimes they come from decisions. Quiet ones. The kind that change the rules. After people have already made their move. Now imagine this, not as history, but as your life. A father. A small home. Years of careful saving. Not in stocks. Not in speculation. Just a few gold coins, kept quietly aside. Something solid. Something he could trust. Not for profit, but for security. For emergencies. For his family. And then one day, the rule changes. He hears it on the radio. Reads it in the paper. Gold must be turned in. There's a deadline. And suddenly, what once felt safe feels dangerous to keep. So he faces a choice. Give it up. And accept whatever comes next. Or keep it. And risk consequences he can't afford. This isn't just financial anymore. It's personal. Because that gold wasn't just money. It was time. Work. Sacrifice. Everything he had set aside. For a future he could no longer control. And like millions of others, he made the only decision he felt he could. He handed it over. At $20.67 per ounce. And for a moment, it felt like the situation was settled. But it wasn't. Because what happened next didn't just affect the price of gold. It changed who actually benefited from it. Not long after the gold was collected, the government changed the price. Gold was revalued from $20.67 to $35 an ounce. Same gold, different price. Which meant something simple, but easy to miss. The dollar had been reduced in value. The people who turned in their gold did exactly what they were told. They followed the rules. They trusted the system. But what they received in return no longer held the same power. Nothing was taken by force. No accounts were emptied. But value quietly shifted. And that's how it often happens. Not through visible loss, but through invisible change. Because when the system that defines money changes, everything connected to it changes too. Prices, savings, what your money can actually do. And by the time most people feel it, the shift has already happened. So why does this matter today? Because moments like this don't begin with panic. They begin with pressure. Economic pressure. Debt. Instability. And when that pressure builds, systems start to adjust. Not always loudly. Not all at once. But in ways that slowly change how money works. In 1933, it was gold. Today, the system looks different. The tools are different. But the principle hasn't changed. When stability is at risk, the rules can change. And those changes don't affect everyone equally. Some people feel it immediately. Others only notice later. When their money no longer does what it used to. That's the part most people miss. Because nothing looks broken. Banks still operate. Payments still go through. On the surface, everything still works. Until you compare what your money could do before with what it can do now. And by then, the shift has already happened. This isn't about fear. It's about awareness. Because value doesn't just disappear. It moves. And if you don't understand where it's moving, you're usually the one losing it. History doesn't repeat exactly, but it follows patterns. And the people who do best are the ones who recognize those patterns before everyone else is forced to. Let's end today's video here. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this historical video, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss our upcoming videos. Your support means everything, so please, take a moment to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Until we meet again in the next video. Take care and goodbye.